Okay, whenever you're ready.
Okay. Imagine living in poverty and struggling to raise your 5 children in a village somewhere far away. As if this mental picture wasn't bad enough, now imagine a stranger invading your home and kidnapping one of your daughters. You remain puzzled, frightened, and confused, and then you begin to think, who is this man? Where is he taking my daughter? When will she be back? Will I ever get to see her again? But this has happened to you before, so you know that there's no way out. You begin to run after the car, and you hear your daughter's screams fading, and then you realize that you can't say anything to anyone, and your daughter has just been abducted and taken away by a human trafficker. Human trafficking is the movement of people, women, men, and children from one country to another through force, violence, and deception for the purpose of forced labor, servitude, and slavery-like practices. Prostitution is an act between two people where sexual services are exchanged for payment. Now you're wondering, what does prostitution have to do with human trafficking? Well, you'd be surprised. So I'm going to speak to you about 2 cases in which both human trafficking and prostitution are linked together. And these are 2 of hundreds and thousands of cases. The first case I'll speak to you about is a 16-year-old girl who was trafficked from Czech Republic to the Netherlands and forced to work up to 20 hours a day, but managed to run away in the long run. A large part of Czech children are considered the Roma children, which means that their ancestors migrated from northern India to Europe, making them gypsies. There's a law in Czech Republic which states the right to education for Roma children in the region is particularly limited in terms of access, quality, and choice. The Czech children are uneducated and looked down upon. They feel unwanted, so to any human trafficker, they feel that any human trafficker can make them feel better. Their families are destroyed, making it almost impossible for them to seek any sort of guidance. Most of them live in gutters and alleys, and you would think that the police officers that are around would help them and give them a hand, but in fact, they're even worse. The local police in Czech find excuses to blame some of the children for making themselves targets, especially for the younger females, and threaten them by saying that they will hand them over to the traffickers if they don't perform a sexual activity on them, or they will be arrested. The second case I'll talk about is a 17-year-old Asian girl who was trafficked and sold to the Japanese. She and her friends were raped and tortured. If she were to say a word, they would kill her. Later, her and her friend were found by police officers and were taken and deported. A NGO of the Human Rights Watch stated, by allowing these sorts of traffickers to migrate to traffic these women, they are failing to track corruption amongst government officials. They state that prostitution is immoral and should be looked down upon. This includes the traffickers, owners, and the clients themselves. The people in East Asia, they don't abide by their own rules and are now afraid that it will only increase in the following years and become more underground and secretive, where they will lose contact with illegal businesses completely. Now that we've analyzed these 2 cases out of hundreds and thousands, let's see where prostitution really comes into play and its effect on human trafficking. Others believe the legalization of prostitution will in fact stop human trafficking by bringing out traffickers into the open, but they don't realize that they will only blend in and they can't be charged for anything else, because if prostitution is in fact made legal, then they can get away with it and say that they weren't trafficking anyone, but they were the pimp, as they say. So what can be done to prevent this? Let's take one country at a time. Czech Republic, for example. Countries have made laws, but they will not abide by them. They have let the criminals take control, and such a strong international crime will never be stopped if these systems don't work harder on putting a stop to it themselves. Czech Republic should do a background check on each and every officer before they are hired, because they seem to be the main factor as to why their laws aren't being put into action. They should also establish legal agreements with Germany, since their system is much more stronger, preventing any sort of expansion of human trafficking. There should be foreign campaign companies in Czech that are willing to go over and volunteer and hear these children's stories, and hopefully they could be placed in better care. Now China, the women of Japan, Japan. The women of Japan don't have a choice, and they have no one to stick up for them. There should be some kind of organized groups where these women can simply go and tell their stories, and hopefully, then the Japanese will figure out what to do with them. Officials should make regular checks into any massage parlors, bars, clubs, etc. And make sure that there is no illegal activity being done in the secretive dark back rooms, because that's usually where they hold these young women. I hope that you all understand my analyzed theory as to why legalizing prostitution will lead to human trafficking and increase it as well. There's a famous saying that is used for criminals, and it goes as follows: if you do the crime, you do the time. This should apply to every single criminal in every country. Human trafficking is a very serious international crime. I hope that together as one we will strive and better our nation by helping others. This is a long-term crime, and many of these traffickers know exactly what they're doing. They don't tend to change their plan, because in most regions they know that it is very unlikely for them to be captured and sentenced. All in all, I believe that one day we will come together and stop, or at least to try to decrease the amount of human traffic and torture every hour of every day. Thank you.
Oh crap, my slideshow.